Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. The question of the week that Graig at MidLife Sports Cards has asked everyone is, how has collecting improved my life? So in this video, I'm going to get a little personal, talking about my life, my background, my history, and how collecting cards has played a part in all the various ups and downs in my life. Now, I started collecting cards in 1978. 47 years, almost half a century, I've been collecting baseball cards. Now, some years maybe more than others. When I was in college, maybe not so much, and a couple years here and there where I didn't collect as much, but I was still collecting, and I still kept my collection, even though I may not have been adding much to it for certain years. But going back in high school, grade school, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, close friends. There were some, kids I hung out with, and while I was in school, I hung out with all the popular kids, the jocks, and all the popular kids. But as soon as school ended, I was a bit of a loner. I stayed at home most of the time. I didn't go to the parties. I didn't even go to my high school prom. And through that, by being sort of a loner, I turned to my hobby, collecting cards. I enjoyed buying cards, organizing my cards, cataloging my cards. And then when I got into college, I made, a few close friends during college, but then after graduating college, I moved back home away from those friends. They went their own separate directions, and I was back to being single and pretty much not hanging out with many friends. And so what did I turn to keep myself occupied and busy was collecting baseball cards. And then I met my first wife, and we had our son, got married, and sort of slowed down collecting a little bit when you have a newborn, and we got a new house and all that stuff. But at some point, I picked up collecting baseball cards again. And it was around that time, just before I met my first wife, is when I decided to go down this very long path of becoming a player collector and a super collector of Wade Boggs. So that focus and that intensity on that aspect of collecting just gave me, I don't want to say a purpose in life, because I wasn't all about cards, but it was a huge part of my life. Going on, I think I started off on Yahoo. I think they had some auctions or something like that, and then eBay came on, and just immersed myself in eBay and all these cards that were available for sale through that platform. And then my first marriage started. We had difficulties falling apart, and we ended up getting a divorce. And it was around that rough patch toward the end that some women, when they deal with stress or whatever, they do retail therapy. Well, I did my own version of retail therapy, and I really got back into collecting cards, specifically Wade Boggs cards. And it was at that point in my life that baseball cards taught me a very important lesson. And that lesson is financial responsibility. I spent way too much money on baseball cards, to the point where I was racking up credit card debt. And following the divorce and everything that went on with that, I found myself with some big credit card bills, and it took me a while, but I dedicated my finances to it, cut back on purchases, and finally paid off that credit card debt. And it was that lesson that today I do not buy any baseball cards on a credit card. If I don't have the money in hand to spend, I don't spend it. So collecting cards taught me a big financial lesson in life, that don't spend above your means. You may not have the biggest bank account, but you can still enjoy collecting cards with the budget that you have. There's plenty of cards out there in various price points. You can build a really nice collection with a responsible budget after paying all the bills and saving and investing and doing what you need to do for the important things in life. Hopefully there's a little bit of money left that you can devote to the hobby. So following divorce, I spent, I'm trying to think, it's maybe 10, well, maybe a little bit more than that, a little over 10 years I was single. Dated here and there or whatever, but again, the constant in my life was collecting baseball cards, and again, primarily Wade Boggs cards. And right before I got together with my current wife and started dating her, I attended my first national, which was a great experience. Now, when I attended my first national in 2015, and even the national in 2019, I went out, I was by myself. Again, I was a loner. Didn't know anyone else in the hobby other than my good friend Rich, the biggest Boggs collector out there. Both of those nationals were in Chicago, and I took the opportunity out there to visit with my friend Rich, but he was the only one that I knew out there, and I still ventured out and had a nice time walking around the table, seeing all the cards, buying some nice cards. But it's been the last 5 years since I've been on YouTube that, because of my collecting and deciding to get on YouTube and do videos, now up to that point, I had just been by myself collecting cards. I didn't have any friends. My family really didn't care much about my collection. I'd tell them about it, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, okay," and they knew it made me happy, but they didn't have any real interest. My son, when he was younger, into Little League, he showed a little bit of interest in collecting cards, and then that sort of faded away. So he wasn't really, he's not really into cards. He knows my collection and understands and appreciates my collection, but now he's joined the Army and getting on with his life. Maybe someday, who knows, he would be interested in collecting, but right now that's not even on his radar of any type of hobby. He's just starting off his life and starting a career and so on. But for me, since I've been on YouTube, now I get to share my collecting and my collection with all of you out there. And now, every year, I look forward to attending the Strongsville show and the National, not to buy cards, even though, yes, I buy cards at those shows, but I look forward every year now, especially with the Strongsville show, attending that for my second year, but the National and the Strongsville show, I look forward to attending those shows to hang out with all the great collectors that I have met through YouTube. And it's been transformative in my collection, in my personal life. I've met and made so many who I consider friends in the hobby that I look forward to hanging out with everyone. Yeah, talking baseball cards, that is the main focus of our conversations, but talking about our lives in general, getting to know each other better. The last 5 years have been probably the best years of me collecting cards in my life. Yes, I am remarried, very happy, and I have a wonderful wife who allows me to do all this stuff, these videos and collecting, gets me out of her hair, so she's fine with me doing all this stuff. So I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive wife. But yes, collecting cards has been a constant for me throughout my entire life, as long as I can remember. So in 1978, I was 6 years old. I have maybe some memories, maybe prior to that, vague little memories of doing this and doing that. But for pretty much my entire life and the memories of my life up to this point, collecting baseball cards have been a part of my life, like I said, for 47 years. And I hope that I am lucky enough, knock on wood, to be able to collect baseball cards for another 40 years. And I look forward to what those next 40 years of my life will afford me in terms of building my collection, what my collection will look like in 10, 20, 30 years. And maybe, again, if I'm fortunate enough, maybe up to 40 years of continuing to collect baseball cards and enjoying this hobby. It's been an escape. There have been good times in my life, bad times in my life, when I've been married, when I've been single, when I've been, living on my own. Through all of that, baseball cards have been a part of my life's journey throughout that whole time. And I can look back at all the cards, because I've sold very few cards. So I can go back and I have memories of, pulling this card. Oh yeah, I remember, I have, just thinking about it, I have at least a 5,000 count box of 1993 Upper Deck cards. They're pretty much worthless. But I remember a coworker of mine saying that, hey, I understand you're interested in baseball cards. I think it was his son or something like that, had a bunch of cards, was getting rid of them, and wanted to know whether I was interested in some 1993 cards or something. It was around that time frame. And yeah, I forget. I didn't pay much for them. And all the star cards, the Derek Jeter rookie, I think, in the 93 Upper Deck, there weren't any of them there. So I have a whole bunch, 5,000 plus cards of 1993 Upper Deck. I still have in my collection, and I remember how I acquired all those 1993 Upper Deck cards. Is because I got them off of a coworker. Now, I don't have specific memories of every single card. I probably have over 250,000 cards in my collection, but each of them have a memory of, even just the time frame of when I bought the cards, not specifically, pulling a specific card from a pack. Although, again, just thinking of it here, I remember opening up a pack of 1996 Collector's Choice. Very basic set or whatever, but I remember pulling a gold signature parallel of Ken Griffey Jr. And I still have that card. I've been debating whether I ever want to get that graded, but those 90s cards, those inserts, those parallels, I think that card is fairly, valuable. But regardless, I remember pulling that card from a pack in 1996, just talking through this video here. So baseball cards have provided great memories for me, and again, have been a constant in my life for 47 years. So definitely collecting baseball cards has not necessarily just improved my life, but has been a part of my life for all these years. And I look forward to many, many more years enjoying this great hobby, the people within the hobby, the friends that I have made in this hobby through YouTube. And with the National coming up, I am so excited to head out to Chicago again and hang out with so many friends of mine and talk cards, talk life. and just have a great time. So, Greg, excellent question. Actually, I should thank Orlando, a collector's dream, because he made a comment that Greg turned into the question of the week. Orlando noted that with all the negativity that may be in the hobby, there's so many benefits to collecting baseball cards, sports cards, whatever you're into within the hobby. There's so many positives to it, and that's definitely true for me. So Orlando and Greg, thanks for that great question of the week. Would love to know in the comments what have been some of the positives for you in collecting sports cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.